I'm slightly worried because there was a report of a boat stolen, a narrowboat stolen in Milton Keynes. I think it was just last week. It was just last week. So like mid-November. And stolen narrowboat which had been left unattended for however long. And the police managed to find it. The thieves had apparently stolen the boat, probably in the middle of the night. I mean, I didn't have all the details, obviously. There was a news story I saw on the internet about it, and I heard some other details from a boater I was speaking to. They painted the boat white. It was originally red and black, apparently, and they painted it white. A very quick paint job to evade detection, obviously, and sailed it down. I don't know what canal they'd used, but they'd gotten as far as Gloucester. They were in the Gloucester area, perhaps Gloucester locks or something. Kevin was giving me some of the details, and the police were sending drones down the canal to sort of search for it, and boaters were keeping their eye open, and they caught up with them at Gloucester docks. Well, they got the boat anyway. I don't know if they caught the thieves, but it's a scary thought. And last winter, I remember there was a tale Diane was telling me she'd seen on Facebook about a boat stolen in the Stoke area. I don't know, it just seems like I don't know if it's a bit of a crime wave on the canals or whether it's just always been a thing, but I don't remember hearing that much about any of these kind of activities when I was in the northwest, because I spent a couple of years up there on the Llangollen, round by Chester, Ellesmere Port, Nantwich. You know, I went into Manchester, just the sort of, you know, those sort of haunts, Middlewich, and I spent, I think, 3 winters up there and never saw any evidence of crime, anything really. It didn't occur to me that there could be a serious issue with crime on the canals, but I'm not sure if I've maybe had a bit of a rose-tinted view on it. And you know, it's not something, I'm sounding like I'm bashing YouTubers here. I'm genuinely not, but it's not something you hear spoken about very much on YouTube. I remember a couple of years back, maybe 3 years ago, the Foxes Afloat had an incident where someone tried to get into the stern locker, you know, and just see what was there, presumably, and they chased them off. The dog must have heard them, I think. Chased them off, and oh, it's a boat. Right, it's that Rose narrowboat from earlier on. He went past. Thanks, guys.
No problem. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, folks. Yeah, they were giving me loads and loads of room, and I went a bit too close in because it was on a bend. This is boring to describe now, but because it was on a bend, you know what? If something's boring to describe, you know I'm going to do it. That's the way. Yeah. Anyway, we were on a bend, and I was coming round. They were. Oh, I'm not. No. Don't do it, Tony. Don't ruin your channel. Don't ruin your channel. Don't. The temptation is strong. But I didn't want to give the perception that I was heading for them. I'll just say that, because I sucker myself into carrying on. Stop it. No, don't do it. But let's suffice to say, it was my fault that I got too close. I didn't really need to. Anyway, I need more. That's what I need. Do you know what I need? Actually, I need a burst of reverse because I'm revving away and I'm not going anywhere. And I'm pretty sure it's because we've got leaves in the canal. We haven't had stormy weather. So I don't know what's with all the leaves here. You know, I'm not a naturalist, am I? I haven't got a clue. But they are here, and they're snagging up the prop a little bit. They slow you down. So anyway, sorry, getting back to what I was saying, I wasn't aware that there was a sort of a bit of a crime issue on the canals, and it might be that there isn't, so I don't want to sort of ring alarm bells unnecessarily, but I personally am getting a little bit concerned about like petty theft and things like that, and not just from passing civilians and scroats, as we call them in the UK. I'm talking about theft by boaters, like other boaters. I remember there was a young couple on a boat called Poppy. I really enjoyed their vlogs a few years back. Really nice, pleasant young couple. They told the story. They mentioned, it was a brief mention, that some of their coal had been stolen. They must have kept it on the roof like I do. The coal had been stolen, but they knew, he muttered something like, I know who stole our coal as well, so that we'll get that back or something. So it must have been a nearby boater, and they must have brazenly left it on show or something, I don't know. Anyway, look, I won't guess about the details because I don't know. Sun's coming out a bit now. So I won't guess, but you know, it first alerted me to the idea that, oh, maybe some of these boaters aren't all sorts of angels, you know. Maybe some of them are a bit naughty. And I think it is very much the case, I must be honest. But yeah, so my eyes have been opened a little bit to the incidents of crime, and especially recently. But there's been a few things I've heard. If you look on the Canal World discussion forum, which, you know, is a mine of information, great forum, a couple of sort of slightly snooty individuals, perhaps slightly not the friendliest initially, I don't know, tread carefully, you know. Anyway, so on the Canal World discussion forum, there's many stories about generators being stolen, the little suitcase generators. For instance, that's just one example. They're very popular, and apparently in London, where there's a massive liveaboard boater community, you know, it's quite risky to leave your generator on the towpath. One of the guys on the forum said he got his nicked while it was actually running. They just unplugged it and ran off while it was still running. I think he had his washing machine running or something was going on. He didn't realise straight away. By the time he cottoned on, they were gone. So he lost his generator. There was a story, and again it was on Canal World discussion forum. A guy posted, said he was cruising, so he's liveaboard, but he left his boat for a couple of days, and it was close to a marina. I think it was somewhere near Burton-on-Trent. It was on that stretch of the Trent and Mersey, I think. Anyway, it sort of doesn't matter exactly where it is. This isn't Crime Watch, you know. I'm not asking you to go looking. It was just in that general area, and he had his stove nicked. His stove was nicked. Unbelievable. They actually, it had to have been boaters, because they found scratch marks of the thing and paint where it had been dragged across the bow towards the canal. So it had been dragged off onto another boat, basically. And the chimney flue pipe and the chimney hat. So they took the trouble to break into the boat, unscrew the bolts which would hold the stove down, and these are heavy things as well. You know, disassemble the flue stove, pull it out from through the roof, through the hole, and took the whole lot. Now, a second-hand stove is not going to be a thing that fetches lots and lots of money. This isn't a valuable, you know, brand new, they're like 500 or 600 quid. I mean, some of them are much more expensive, but you can get one for maybe 600 quid, like a cheap. In fact, you can get them cheaper. This was a good one. It was a Morso Squirrel, which are known to be good quality stoves. So this was a good one, his, and that was probably more like £1,000. But second hand, a few £100. You know, who knows? If it's 10 years old, if it's 15 years old, that's not £1,000. That's a couple of £100 maybe. You know, but that got nicked by another boat. So guy lost his stove. They actually stole a stove off of a boat. That is mad. Like, I just never thought that would be something that you'd see happening. I can imagine them stealing a gas bottle if there's one in the stern locker, or out of your crotch, opening the cover and nicking a generator, or whatever you might have, I don't know. But to actually break in and steal a stove, just, to me, it's like, it's off the scale. It's just ludicrously bad. So I'm trying to think. I wrote a couple of examples down of this step because I wanted to sort of have a quick chat about it, which has turned into a long chat. Apologies, but I wanted to have a quick chat because I think it's something worth mentioning. I think it's something that someone thinking about getting into the lifestyle, or recently gotten into the lifestyle, needs to bear in mind, you know, to consider security. I don't want to, again, I said this at the start, I don't want to create unnecessary alarm, but I think it is important for people to know that theft from boats by other boaters is a thing. It is a thing. Now listen, if you get a couple of bags of coal nicked, I mean, Kevin there, who I was more next to, he said, he had 2 bags nicked off of his roof, and they were on the offside. They were like, there's the towpath. They were on the offside where they were more difficult to reach from the towpath, because that's where you think a robber's going to approach from. Well, no, a boat must have pulled in alongside him as they were just going past, and just hoiked his coal off and threw it onto their boat and carried on. Whole thing's done in 10 seconds. Well, certainly less than a minute. It's slowed down, pull in, you know, whatever. But it's all done in less than a minute. And they just carried on. And, you know, those people who did that theft, they wouldn't know for sure that the boat was empty. So what would have happened if someone had come out and challenged them? How's that situation going to unfold? So, you know, would it have turned violent? What would have happened? So I wrote another example down. So there's generator theft, which is a major thing, and you've got to run your generator on the towpath. Apparently, I haven't got one, but the advice is run it on the towpath, so the fumes will disperse, the CO, carbon monoxide or whatever, it'll disperse. Because if you run it on your stern, there's a good chance it's heavier than air, and it will flow down into your boat, and it'll start filling it. And people have been, there's small numbers, very small numbers, but people have been killed by generators running. So the advice is always run it on the towpath, which is another reason, by the way, for getting one you can carry easily. So in other words, no heavier than about 20 kilograms, unless you're built like the Hulk. It's a sombre subject, and it's not one, to be honest, that I take any pleasure from bringing to anyone's attention. But I do think it seems to be becoming a reality of the waterways. I think you've always had low-level crime by a small number of, like, scroats. Call them scroats. But there was, you know, to have a stove nicked, and that was only 2 weeks ago, I think, the account on the forum, and then to have a boat nicked in Milton Keynes, and there was another boat nicked as well a couple of weeks before that. 2 boat thefts in the space of a couple of weeks. I don't know if it's one crew doing everything, I don't know whether there's a few crews, but there are clearly a bunch or several groups of really bad apples, real scumbags, knocking around on boats and just opportunistically nicking whatever they can. So, you know, if you've got like an expensive e-bike, this is my one, isn't an expensive one. I mean, it was £1,500, but that's not expensive for an e-bike. That's sort of mid-range, really. Is it even that? You know. But I knew a guy who had a £3,000 e-bike, a really nice one, and he's got it tethered on his boat by one of those thin cables, you know, that you use on a cheap push bike to lock it outside the newsagent while you pop in for 2 minutes. He's got it tethered by a cheap cable, and I don't know whether it's the region that you're in. Perhaps it's the region you're in. I just don't know. Like in the northwest, this wasn't on my radar, all this. And that's not just me saying like the northwest is brilliant. It just wasn't on my radar. Maybe I was lucky, I don't know. Maybe I didn't speak to people who've been victims of crime, I don't know. But what I can say is I've become more aware of the incidents of crime as I've moved south. You know, this thing about the boat theft around Stoke, I don't know if they ever got it back, but a boat was nicked around Stoke, not far from Etruria, somewhere up that region. So yeah, look, don't sort of run out and get yourself some kind of crazy weapon or, you know, anything like that. You know, don't overreact. I'm genuinely not trying to create panic with anyone, but I think I would say take care with your possessions and with your boat. Don't assume that everyone on the waterways are good guys. They're all lovely people, you know, it's a lovely community. There are some bad apples. Thankfully it seems not too many, but the ones that are bad are pretty damn bad. Nicking someone's boat, absolute, to just nick someone's boat, outrageous. So yeah, just be careful. Take some simple precautions, locks on your doors. And the thing is, when I first got the boat, I teamed up for a few days with a young lad. He was only in his early 20s, smashing, really good lad, cheerful, friendly, very hard worker at locks and things, which I'm all for. You know, I love people who put in a shift at the locks to sort of save me doing it, you know. Dave and Di see that. Anyway, so he's a lovely lad, and he didn't even lock his door. He used to leave his boat, and I think he left it on holiday. He went on holiday to Spain for a week or something, maybe more. I think it was more, and left his boat unlocked. And I remember saying to him, because I didn't know, I had no idea really, apart from a couple of YouTube accounts of theft, I had no idea what the situation was. So I said to him, do you get much theft? Is it a thing? And either by civilians or by other boaters, you know, whatever. And he said, no, he said, I've never had anything. He said, no, wrong, they stole a kayak from his roof. Someone stole a kayak from his roof in Rugeley, which then gave me a mortal fear of Rugeley, such that I went straight through Rugeley on my cruise north, when it's a lovely place. It's really, really nice place. But the impression he gave was that, yeah, leave me boat unlocked, I just swan around, the waterways are great, you'll never have anything nicked, it's all fine. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went to the northwest, and that seemed to be the case. Not a hint of theft. Nobody I spoke to mentioned theft. Well, very, very few, very few. And I think I got a bit of a false sense of security. And as this summer's progressed and I've moved south, I'm starting to realise and listen to these accounts and see these accounts. I'm talking about television news. It was on the BBC website. You know, this Canal World discussion forum, which is a serious forum. It's not some kind of just rumour mill. Well, I think there's an element, but, you know, generally speaking, it's reliable information for the most part, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, and we've got a tunnel coming up. We've got the New Bowl Tunnel. Right, I need to get my tunnel light on. So, yeah, all I would say, guys, is don't panic. You know, it's fine, whatever. But there does seem to be a rise in theft by other boaters, and my advice would be just to keep half an eye on things. Don't be lackadaisical. Just take some basic precautions. You know, and you can make of it what you will. But yeah, don't panic. That's not going to help you or anyone else really.